Hello students, I am Ishan Trivedi. Welcome you in this video lecture series. Today I am going to discuss about transit routing. In this session, I am going to cover the transit routing and its introduction, then what is the route planning principles, what is route classification, and at last terminologies regarding the corridor. So let us first understand what is the transit routing. A route is a path that a transit unit follows during its journey from the origin terminus to the destination terminus, and the same will be done in the return journey as well. Along the route, there can be many stops at which these transit units halt to let the passenger alight and board. Means that passenger use stations and the terminals are there in that transit route so that they can come in and use those facilities for their alight and boarding. A transit route network can be visualized in terms of links and nodes spread across the geographical space either in a region or in an urban area. I have discussed about the links and nodes, even though I'm just repeating those phenomenon. Links are the junction and provided at every junction, and nodes are the dead ends of any route. Means the origin and destination of routes is nodes and the links are the junctions. For small cities, a single route connecting the employment and commercial activity centers with the residential area may be sufficient enough. However, with the increase in the size, there is a need for the number of intersecting, or you can say parallel routes which arises and leading to the formation of route network. So here, if the city has expanded, then there may be a potential need of another route, and that's why by parallel route or some other network there will be a need of different routes, and these can be at intersection and ultimately which leads to the formation of route network. If I'm talking about the route planning principles, then there are some basic route planning principles. For example, a transit route should be aligned along the major activity centers to ensure the adequate ridership. See, you need to define a route in a such a way that there will be ample of ridership and those who are going to use those routes and the facility which has been provided in that route. For example, BRTS corridor in Ahmedabad, Surat, they have their ridership, and based on that the route has been finalized between the journey. Even not only the BRTS, even the local municipal bus have their own routes, and based on the residential area and the commercial potential, they will decide that which route or which path has to be followed in that particular origin and destination journey. A transit route should be as short as possible, preferably not more than 30 km, or you can say 2 hours of round trip. Then transit route should be direct and should avoid the circuiting, which results into the excessive rise in the travel time. The transit route should be compatible with the existing road network, and we have to utilize that road network, or you can say channel of movement in that area. Then the number of branch routes from a trunk route should be restricted to 2 from the operational design point of view. Means in a parent route, for example BRTS route, I cannot go with the parallel local AMC bus. Clear? So AMC transportation, I can restrict those parallel route up to 2 or 3. Otherwise there will be rider choice behavior, and the passenger trips will be divided. The travel mode for access and egress should be considered while planning the route so that the distance to be covered from the origin to the transit stop is not too large to discourage the use of transit. See, whenever we are deciding the transit route, the buffer area has to be marked. Means that particular station or route will serve up to how much distance. For example, we have the tendency to travel for 15 minutes and the bus service has to be provided like that. For that 15 minutes denotes almost a mile travel by walking. So almost these bus stops would serve a kilometer or half a kilometer service by walking. So you have to determine the route in a such a way that it covers almost the area where there are more number of foot access within those permissible limit of 1.5 kilometer. Then in case of route served by a common terminal, uh, through route may be planned if the passenger transfers are more than 20% to reduce the inconvenience to the through passengers. Yet we didn't have the practice regarding this transfer or common terminal, though in nearest future we are planning. For example, metro, there is an integration of metro station with the Kalapur railway station. So it has to be divided in a such a way that the passenger do not have much time in the transferring the one corridor to another corridor or one route to another route, and that's why uh, we need to provide those faster service so that we can reduce the inconvenience for those through passengers. Then the duplication of route connecting the same origin and destination should be avoided. The separate routes should be planned for accelerated and local services for the ease of operation and coverage of wider population. So these are the basic route planning principles. Now we are going to discuss about the route classification. Based on the service type, routes are classified in three parts, that is fixed route, semi-fixed routes and demand responsive routes. Here, fixed routes are planned where the transit services is fixed in space as well as time dimension in the service area. Means they have their own specified origin and destination, and this own specific origin and destination they follow the time schedule. Means if I'm talking about the AMTS bus and the BRTS bus, both have their origin and destination in that route. They follow a particular time schedule for their journeys. Now when I'm talking about the semi fixed type of route service, then these are provided when there is a partial deviation in terms of either space or time or both is allowed. Demand of special groups like elderly people, school going children, pilgrims, etc. These routes are of semi-fixed type in services. We have heard many of the times that government or the state government provides extra buses for those pilgrims. There is extra train for the pilgrims. So they have their flexibility in terms of space or the time. And next is the demand responsive routes. These offers the full flexibility in terms of schedule of operation and routes depending on the specific request from the travelers. Generally, low capacity paratransit system is operated on the demand responsive basis, and these are of the taxis, cabs and the auto rickshaws. So these are of those demand responsive routes which depends upon the travel behavior, or you can say which depends upon the traveler's choice and the demands. Where there is no fixed route, no time scheduling, they follow the instruction of the traveler. Transit demand varies with the size of city and the region, and based on the route length there are three major types of routes which are planned in the region. These are of shuttle or straight routes, serpentine routes and the circular routes. So let us understand these demand responsive routes in detail. First is shuttle routes. These are suitable to meet with the short-term peak hour demand along a specific corridor without frequent stops and high frequency of transit units. Next is the serpentine routes. These are of medium distance routes winding their way in a zigzag fashion, crossing the number of other routes starting from one terminus to other terminus. These routes passes through the residential areas as well as the buses and commercial activity areas to provide the essential transit connectivity, resulting in the longer travel time and the delays. And there we have the circular routes. These routes originates and terminates at the same terminus. Such routes become necessary for the medium cities and the metropolitan cities to provide direct connectivity between the outlying areas. Here, these services on these routes are operated either in the clockwise and or the anti-clockwise direction, which ultimately reduce the dead kilometerage. Here, circular routes offers the flexibility to the passenger to travel in either clockwise or anti-clockwise direction, as I said. And however, this journey time between the diametrically opposite ends may increase considerably because they are covering the entire circular route of the corridor, and that's why they require a longer time than the single one-way journey. Here the balloon type of circular route is famous, and that follows the one-way route within the outer portion. There are other two-way services also provided on the rest of the routes. Now understand few terminologies regarding the corridor. So first, what is corridor? A corridor is a broad geographic band connecting the population and employment centers served by various transportation modes within which a passenger and the freight travel. Land uses, topography, environment and other characteristics are evaluated for the transportation purposes. Here one example has been shown, and here the photograph of Ahmedabad BRTS and their corridor has been shown to you. It is in various phases. Phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3 is proposed. You can do further study on BRTS case study of particularly Ahmedabad city area. You will have the basic idea about this system, how this system has implemented, how the route choice has been done on the phase 1 and phase 2, and how they come up with the route with basic characteristics and thinking about the futuristic demand of this particular route. There may be an overlapping of certain routes and how they eliminate certain problems, how this geometry has been determined. All the things we need to understand by this case study. A corridor is an area of land typically along a linear route containing the land uses and transportation system influenced by the existing route also, as I told you that how they come up with the existing route, how they come up with the land use changes, that is a part of those futuristic change. Then there is an existing transportation system in the form of AMTS and the local bus services. So how they integrate those things and come up with this transit route and the corridor development in the city area. So that you need to understand. A transportation corridor contains a lines of transportation like highways, rail, roads or canal, which almost in a length of 1 kilometer minimum to over an 100 kilometer. In Ahmedabad also you will find various corridors. For example, BRTS corridor is there, then metro corridor is also there, which caters all those potentiality which are going to generate in the future, and you have to forecast the future at present, and based on that this corridor has been identified, and certainly those land use also changes just because of this linear corridor development. So what we need to do here, we need to do the corridor study, and for that we need to identify the corridor study area. These includes the corridor itself as well as the nearly areas and the transportation facilities such as airports and freight terminals, that influence the travel demand in the corridor and will get the enough ridership. See, Delhi Metro is one of those examples which has connected the airport also. The integration of the transport facilities has been made in a such a way that you can easily commute in the Delhi region from the airport. Here the geographic boundaries of the study area typically coincide with the geographic units used for the reporting population, the employment and the travel demand data such as cities, towns, or you can say census tracts. So this is about the corridor study area. Now furthermore in these terminologies there is another term, that is corridor traffic study. A corridor traffic study includes the collection of all the traffic data that are used for the forecasting of all the links. Why do we require this data? This data determines the instantaneous picture or the present picture of the land use characteristics and how the behavior of individual depends upon the land use, whether it is of their home based trip or the work trip and the other non-home based trip. So we need to find out the socio-economic characteristics and other relevant data based on the requirement of corridor. Then after that we will do the forecasting of all those relevant links that we have identified for the corridor development, and in that link the number of traffic lanes are computed on a particular roadway, and the analysis of various transportation alternatives also captured in that traffic study. Then there we have the corridor traffic forecasting. Here this process of forecasting is done for the determining the number of traffic lanes required in the corridor to meet the futuristic traffic demands, and that's why we require this forecasting. Here you need to understand, after providing the corridor there will be change in the land use and there will be number of potentiality in that corridor, and that's why you need to forecast the traffic in a such a way that in future if the potentiality increases, the number of trips are increased and there will be congestion in the particular corridor. So you do not need to over calculate and under calculate in this forecasting procedure. Then there is a corridor management. Here the term corridor management refers to the practices of identifying and implementing a mutually supportive set of strategies to maintain and enhance the access, mobility, safety, economic development, and environmental equality along the transportation corridor. See, as I told you that you need to understand the potentiality of corridor, and it has to be integrated with the other transportation and how they come up in the future, that you need to understand. So we require the corridor management for its effectiveness and the sustainability in the transportation system. So to achieve this corridor management, we need to provide the corridor management plan. This corridor management plan is the coordination of the land use activity within a linear area, and it is nothing but a transit oriented development. A corridor plan focuses on the integration of transportation routes and its surrounding linear area like an open space, water courses and other land use. Here you need to develop certain strategies, because after this corridor development there will be change in the land use and there will be linear development along with the corridor. So you need to understand those types of strategies which are included in the corridor area plan. For example, transportation improvements which I am going to do in the existing services, then land use strategies such as zoning, land conservation, access management, landscaping, preservation of right of way, then management tools and the processes such as the development guidelines, design guidelines, and the plan oversight and the monitoring. Here there has to be a mechanism for interjurisdictional cooperation. Now next is the count. These are the various data collected during the measuring and recording the traffic characteristics such as traffic volume, speed, weight, then modes or a combination of all these. So these are the basic terminologies in the form of corridor. So I am ending this session here. I hope you have learned basic concept of transit route and the terminologies of corridor. Thanks for watching this video.